In our obsession with antagonisms of the moment, we often forget how much unites all the members of humanity. Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet, I ask you, is not an alien force already among us? What could be more alien to the universal aspirations of our peoples than war and the threat of war?
This is a time for justice. Welcome to today's show. I want to thank everybody before I get into the video for being here and subscribing to this channel, and also for the nice words and nice comments that people wrote after obviously losing another channel. Those kind words and those things that all of you pretty much have said are the reason that I continue to do this and continue to try to help wake people up. So thank you for being here. I hope to see you guys continue to be here and continue to be on my new channels, because we all know it's coming again. This channel does have one strike, so 2 more. This one will be gone. So make sure you sub to the backup channel if you haven't. Now, this is a big story because all of the programming and the propaganda we've seen over the last, 70 years since television came out, has been about an alien invasion. This has obviously been done on purpose. This hasn't been done because it gets a lot of money at the box office. It's repetitive because they've been convincing people that this is something that could happen. So they're going to do this at some point in time. I'm not saying that this specifically is that point in time. However, we just went through everything with the spy balloon. And in the last 2 days, as of me recording this, we have seen the United States government and the Canadian government shoot down what they're calling unidentified flying object in each spot. So 2 unidentified flying object, which is obviously term for a UFO, which is an unidentified flying object. They did not say a satellite balloon. They said unidentified flying object. So people are saying, what is it? Is it a UFO? Is it aliens? And remember, this is part of the deception that is coming. Project Bluebeam is something that many people know about. It doesn't get as much attention as it used to get because there's so much crazy crap going on in this world. But remember, Aleister Crowley in his teachings talked about how they were going to rename demons into aliens. And of course, the way that this world is going, we're going to see demons accepted in our societies, insane as that is. And this stuff's going to be revealed. Now, it's going to be under the guise of UFOs and aliens from Mars and those types of things. But these stories that just came out make you wonder, is this going to begin the rollout of Project Bluebeam? And again, Project Bluebeam, for those of you that don't know much about Project Bluebeam or don't remember about Project Bluebeam, Bluebeam, the whole plan behind it is to create a fake alien invasion, to create a messiah-like figure in the skies, to use the technology that they have to deceive people into worshiping what will, of course, be likely the Antichrist. It's going to be an artificial second coming in order to control people. That's what it's going to be. But let's start by taking a look at these stories and look at the narrative, and you can almost feel like they're trying to start working people towards this being an actual UFO as in aliens, not a UFO as in a balloon.
Breaking right now, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says he has ordered a U.S. warplane to shoot down an unidentified floating object over northern Canada. In a tweet, the Canadian leader says a U.S. F-22 Raptor successfully fired at the object. Canadian forces will now recover and analyze it. This comes on the heels of a fighter jet shooting down another object over Alaska just yesterday. CBS News' Christian Benavides has the latest.
U.S. officials say President Biden gave the order for an F-22 military fighter jet to shoot down the unknown object flying over Alaska's icy northern coast.
Do you have anything to say about the object shot down over Alaska, Mr. President?
Success.
But as investigators work this weekend to gather more information, the object's origin and purpose remains a mystery.
We do not know who owns it. Whether it's state-owned or corporate-owned or privately owned. We just don't know.
White House National Security Council spokesman John Kirby said the device, described as about the size of a small car, was flying at some 40,000 feet and presented a reasonable threat to the safety of civilian flights. Last Saturday, Air Force fighter jets downed the much larger suspected Chinese spy balloon off South Carolina's coast after it crossed the continental United States.
What is concerning is that it was yet another unidentified object violating U.S. sovereignty.
Republican Alaska Governor Mike Dunleavy says the Chinese balloon should have been taken down much sooner. In a statement, he says there is very little margin for error. Russian territory is only a few miles away. We are the one state closest to the Korean Peninsula and China. Alaska is truly on the front lines. Christian Benavides, CBS News.
So this is the type of deception that we know, of course, is coming. They don't put all the time and the effort into predictive programming to not use it. They haven't made all these movies, these horrible movies about aliens, to not use it. They've done their diligence to convince the masses that something like this is possible. Now, the other factor that factors into when they roll all this stuff out is, of course, tolerance and acceptance, right? We see that there'll be more rights for demons and robots than there will be for white Christian males or white female Christians. So this story says another unidentified object has been shot down over northern American airspace, according to Justin Trudeau, who has confirmed it. He said the latest object violated Canadian airspace and was shot down over Yukon in northwest Canada. Both Canadian and U.S. aircraft were scrambled to track down the object, which Mr. Trudeau says was taken out by an F-22. Trudeau says he gave the order and he spoke to Joe Biden. Canadian forces will now recover and analyze the records on the subject. The same exact story happened 24 hours before it, where in the United States, in Alaska, we had an unidentified flying object shot down. It's very interesting that this is occurring all within the same 10 days, week of the balloon showing up, the supposed Chinese spy balloon. Maybe that was something that they didn't really have planned. Maybe it was. Maybe it was something that went, not the way that they thought it would go. But for this to come out immediately, and for them to not say and identify it as a balloon, it's almost like they're desensitizing people to having these things in the airspace. Right now, people hear it this week, they're like, oh, what's the big deal? We just have the balloon up there. And they're like, wait, but we didn't say it was a balloon. It could be a UFO. There's going to be false flags or some type of narrative that comes out of this. This isn't just going to be dropped. Within 24 hours of one another, both countries, America and Canada, have what they call unidentified flying objects flying over that they deem dangerous threats. Right? Remember, the balloon was up there. That old psyop had a narrative of, oh, it's not a threat. The liberal media was making a joke about it, like anyone who was saying that it was a threat or whatever, like they just made fun of it and deflected, even though obviously if that was a real story, which it wasn't, that would be something that would threaten the United States of America, having another country, an enemy country really, who isn't an ally, even though they might tell you that they are allies, even though Biden's allies with them, but all the commies are in bed with one another. But the American people are obviously not interested in China and the way things are done in China. It's absolutely horrific what goes on over there. So they tried to make that seem like, oh, we don't need to shoot it down. What's the big deal? They had no problem shooting these things down, supposedly. So what's the narrative that's going to come of this? Are they going to start pushing Project Bluebeam? Are they going to start making people just turn this into new Roswell and start talking about it like, oh, man, the government's secret about it. It was a UFO. They won't tell you what it is. I guarantee the narrative starts to go that way as they try to draw more people into the alien UFO deception. Again, I'm not saying that aliens, in a sense, aren't real. Aliens from other planets do not exist. Okay, there's no aliens coming from Uranus. Unless you had Taco Bell. I'm kidding. No, seriously, though. Demons exist. Remember, all this stuff goes back to Crowley's teachings. And Crowley taught that aliens would be eventually the name of demons. They would no longer be called demons. And we see the images of grays that they constantly show us. It's funny because they're like, oh, we have aliens. People actually are so brainwashed with no evidence they need Zero evidence to believe aliens are a likely thing and a likely occurrence. Yet, obviously, there's evidence of God's existence, and they just think that that kind of stuff is crazy. And they're like, there's no evidence of that. All the evidence that they have is that the programming that's been put in their head from movies over and over again, from tabloids, talking about celebrities, talking about these shows, that, UFO sighting shows. And nobody asks the question and goes, well, if nobody's ever seen an alien and no one's ever, this stuff's never happened, why do we have an image of what an alien looks like? Where did somebody come up with this notion of what a gray is? Well, it came directly from Aleister Crowley's teachings. That's where it came from, because this is what demons look like. That's what they look like. So, again, where does this narrative go? Where do we see the liberal media, the communist government, where do they start twisting this? Because, again, they're not going to keep this in their pocket for the rest of their lives. They didn't do all of this work and all this programming with aliens to not use it. And we're seeing everything right now. Every single agenda that everybody knows about and has talked about is happening all at once. So why wouldn't they roll that out? You have 5G going on. We have the dumbing down of America like never before. People will buy into whatever they sell at this point in time. We have people who are continuing to go get you-know-whats, despite all the evidence showing that they do nothing, okay? So you don't think that those types of gullible people will believe whatever is plastered on the news and do whatever they're told and believe whatever news story comes out, whether it's the most obvious hoax of all time or some, you know what I mean? Whatever they say, they will believe. So they can start working people with this deception now. They really can. It sounds crazy. I mean, I used to think, oh, will I be alive for Project Bluebeam or any of that stuff? I don't know. I mean, that seems like a ways off. But everything has ramped up over the last 5 years, like never before. I mean, look, I haven't been alive for thousands of years, but at least in my lifetime, I've never seen anything like it as far as how quickly they've turned this country upside down on a dime, how quickly they've brainwashed people, turned them into communists without even realizing it. The acceptance of the trans with the kids in the schools, to the outbreak and actually believing all of these things one by one. So would you be shocked if they actually started doing this and started saying, well, oh, now we found out that in the UK, an unidentified flying object was shot down? I mean, it sounds just like out of Independence Day, right? All the UFOs were showing up over all the countries, right? Remember, the whole deception, too, with the aliens is that's how they'll get humanity to unite into one world, right? Because we're all humans. Oneness, oneness, oneness. Remember the videos I did early on where I took songs and I showed you how many times they would just push the notion of one? That's what it's all about. It's about one. Even, I believe it was at the United Nations when Ronald Reagan said it would take an outside alien-type invasion to get all the countries together, working together. That's exactly right, because that's what their plan is and always has been. So why would any of us be surprised now if they started doing this stuff? If we hear more stories coming out, would any of us be surprised? You tell me in the comment section. I would not. I'm not saying that that's what this is, but that's the first thing that comes to mind, is you hear multiple repetitive stories. Because look, if any of that stuff was actually real, it would never make the news. Like, say there really were aliens, unidentified. It would not make the news. It would not be on CNN. It would not be plastered all over the place from America and Canada. They'd be like, no, this is top secret information. The government doesn't want anyone to know about this. They want it out there. If it's out there, that means they want it out there. That's the truth of the matter. Same with the spy balloon. They wanted it out there unless something acts, I mean, you could have a different theory on that, but they definitely want this out there. They certainly want this out there. So keep an eye on this story. Let's see if more of these pop up over the next coming days/weeks where unidentified flying objects are popping up. The government's hush-hush about it. And then they get more people riled up to believe, oh, it's a UFO. They're hiding aliens from us. They're hiding UFOs from us. It's coming, man. It is coming. The CIA does not waste time, money, effort, and all that stuff. Every single thing that we've seen with predictive programming, from outbreaks to people being controlled by technology, these are all coming to fruition now. All of it. And it's a scary time to be alive, but it's also laughable, really, to see the stuff that people fall for. I thank everyone again for being here on this channel. I appreciate you greatly. I just wanted to do a quick video about this topic because I saw these stories. I wasn't planning on doing it. I just wanted to ramble about it because, again, this is consistency, consistent, repetitive propaganda, right? We know the narrative. We've heard the narrative. We've had it beaten into our heads. Now they're going to roll some of this stuff out. Don't be surprised. The deception is being laid on thick. I thank everyone for being here. Hope you're doing well. God bless all of you and your families.